Hello guys, this is Shiraz Amazing Videos. Review of Aston Martin DB12, the best Aston we've driven in a long time. An entirely new course for Aston Martin. The thinking goes that since Grand Tourers are no longer very relevant, the new DB12 is a more dynamic and fully updated DB11. The claim is that it is the world's first super tourer, though that is a term that has been used in the past to describe vehicles that cross the GT, supercar divide, like the Ferrari Roma and Porsche 911 Turbo. But that's the goal the DB12 is going for. A DB11 ORDBS, is that what it looks like underneath? First, let's take care of the underneath. Its twin-turbo V8 engine is similar to that of its predecessor, and it shares the same chassis and suspension configuration. It would be technically correct to accuse Aston of performing a facelift rather than creating a new vehicle. Hold on, you failed to bring up the V12. That's because it no longer exists. Finally, laws pertaining to emissions have caught up with it. Only the DB12 is V8. Calm down, the V12 will probably show up in whatever takes the place of the DBS Superleggera. Going back to this V8. It hardly needs hybrid assistance, but it isn't available to provide a useful power and weight boost. This Merc-sourced V8 produced 528 horsepower in the DB11. Now, though, with the help of larger turbos, an 8.6:1 compression ratio, redesigned cooling, and adjusted camshafts, it has more than 150 horsepower. The final numbers are 590 pound-feet and 671 bhp. More than the Porsche or Ferrari is capable of producing. Through an 8-speed automatic gearbox with a shorter final drive for improved sprinting, all of that is sent to the rear wheels. Since you ask, it takes 3.6 seconds to go from 0 to 62 miles per hour with a top speed of 202 miles per hour. It moves along quite quickly. More than necessary speed, sufficient to really test the traction at speeds under 60 miles per hour and the kind of high-speed push that can outpace nearly anything. Hold on, the previous DB11 wasn't known for its clutch management. Surely, an extra 150 horsepower turns it into a liability? That is, if Aston hadn't gone overboard with the remainder of it. The all-aluminum bonded platform is 7% stiffer thanks to additional bracing, but the real transformation of this Aston is in the damping and body control. Compared to the DB11, it has far better support, is more accurate, and is more predictable through turns. When pushed, that used to wallow and come out of corners in an awkward corkscrew motion. Not anymore. It now obeys the driver's commands, stays in shape, and maintains control even when pushed vigorously. Furthermore, it can still cruise quietly and comfortably. Unless you wake up the V8. By the way, that still sounds awesome. More on the driving tab. To put it briefly, it rides more luxuriously, behaves better everywhere, and has all the necessary components to challenge the best competitors out there. And are those rivals? Immediately, the Bentley Conti GT comes to mind. Although it still makes a heavyweight GT furrow, it does so incredibly well, which is another reason why Aston has abandoned that market. Then there's the Ferrari Roma. See a group test here, and the previously mentioned Porsche 911 Turbo. Moreover, they are both even more athletic than the DB12. The Roma is an overly caffeinated coupe with a difficult-to-use cabin, while the Turbo is a tense and determined thing these days. Now that you mention it, how is the DB12 inside? I figured you wouldn't ask. It has changed. The DB11 had become very dated very fast. The infotainment system was sourced from Merc, the dash was clumsy and crowded, and the design was very traditional British GT. Nice materials, but the assembly isn't all that appealing. Just as important as the suspension change is the interior renovation. Strong horizontal lines have been used to divide the dash instead of vertical ones rising from the center console. This adds width and lessens distraction by mounting the screens and switchgear lower. And rejoice, because the screens are now in-house developed, more responsive, and have better graphics than Mercedes offshoots from a few generations ago. Not to mention Aston's first touchscreen. The seats are beautiful, the driving position is excellent, and the clearance of the A-pillar and mirror greatly improves visibility. The car is still not very large inside. Because the boot is small, the rear seats are quite close together, and the lid doesn't open all the way. You risk hitting your head when bending over. But how does it appear? Has the game really moved on, or what? Although the general dimensions and design language remain largely unchanged, the stance, the way the wheels pack the arches, the side vents, etc., have all changed. It's a brawnier, bolder, more assertive car now. The DB12 leans in the direction of the ground that the DBS left behind, but it is more toned down and has less muscle than the DBS. Many people now believe that the grille is too large and has gotten out of control, but we don't think that's a problem. Aston is skilled at creating elegant machinery. How much will it cost me? It will exceed £200,000. Even though prices start at £185,000, they will have increased significantly by the time you've indulged in the options list. The grey car in these photos had a £225,000 specification. Which verdict is it? The DB12 finally possesses a wide range of skills and abilities to compete with the best competitors in the market. The most refined Aston Martin we've driven in a long time is the DB12. It now possesses the range of skills and aptitudes necessary to compete with the best competitors in the market. It is positioned exactly in the middle of the range between the Bentley Conti GT and the Ferrari Roma and Porsche 911 Turbo on one side. Its claim to be a super tourer may appear a little hollow in light of that, but that doesn't mean it's not the greatest car in its class. It's just not the sportiest. Although it may not ride as smoothly as the Bentley.